In the complete tradition of this Thunder Qigong, go to Warrior 90 Day Lightning Qigong at thunderwizard.com. I'll see you over there. Hey there, this is Mahadeva. I'm going to teach you a very Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. Alright, so I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about today, so I talk about what I have been thinking about. Just before coming on, or just before deciding to come on and talk today, was flipping through YouTube and I saw something interesting from some Indian guru who supposedly lived for 250 years, something like that, died in 1880 something or other, and wanted to hear what he had to say. And basically all he had to say was that in order to achieve enlightenment, you have to have complete control of your mind. And to have complete control of your mind means to get rid of all of your desires. And, you know, the guy's sitting there in full lotus and he's looks really unhealthy. He looks like he just doesn't give a crap for his body. And I thought, why would anybody want that life? Why would anybody want that? I don't want that. There's nothing about what that guy says that I want. So this is a very common misconception that people have had about spirituality for a long time. And it is especially rampant now, where people seek spirituality to be free of their pain. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a fan of being in pain. I, like everybody else, want to be happy and blissful all the time, and all of my life is focused on being happy and blissful 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I will do absolutely anything and everything to achieve that. Which of course includes holding on to my integrity. So I won't throw my integrity away because that's painful. I don't want to be in pain. I want to be happy and joyful. And so I've found, you know, what I teach isn't anything that I've learned in books. If what I teach happens to agree with what other teachers or other religions have said, that is by pure coincidence. That means that we have both come to the same conclusion. My life has been focused on what works and what doesn't. I don't care what your beliefs are, as long as your beliefs end up making you healthier, happier, and more prosperous, having more love in your life. If your belief doesn't give you that, then I don't want it, because I want to be happy, healthy, prosperous, and have love in my life. And so I will do anything and everything to make that happen. So all of my beliefs are based on what works. Everything that I teach, even if I learned it from somebody else, I thoroughly researched it and practiced it. And if I teach it, it's because it's worked for me. It's made my life better. And that to me is the only thing that's important about spiritual life. Is your spiritual beliefs or practices making your life better? And living for something else, in my experience, never works. You live to please God, you will be miserable. You live to please your family, unless your family is composed of people who are unconditionally supportive of you experiencing and enjoying your life. If they have other motives, they want to live their life through you, or they have beliefs or restrictions that they think you should live by, if you try to please them, you will be miserable. As you know, I'm not a fan of Abrahamic religions, especially Christianity. But there's one quote from the New Testament which I absolutely 100% endorse, supposedly from Jesus. Jesus never existed, just to let you know. But what he is supposed to have said is when he was passing through some village, and some man came rushing out of his home and said, "Teacher, teacher, I want to follow you. Just let me go bury my parents." And Jesus supposedly said to the man, "Let the dead bury themselves. If you can't deny your father, your mother, your family, if you can't deny everything for me, you're not worthy of me." And then it says that the man turned and hung his head and turned around and walked away because he wasn't able to do that. Now, as I've said before, that sounds kind of pithy on the surface unless you understand traditional Jewish customs, which is by law, you have to bury your parents within 24 hours. If you do not drop everything and bury them within 24 hours, you are the worst person that's ever existed. You're the most evil, bad, wrong, horrible person that's ever walked the face of the planet, and you deserve destruction immediately. So for this guy to say, "Let me bury my parents," meaning I'm doing it right now, just give me a few hours to bury them, would have been the most reasonable thing to ask of a Jewish spiritual teacher. So for Jesus supposedly to have responded and said, "Let the dead bury themselves," if you can't reject your parents for me, you're not worthy of me. For him to say that was absolutely blasphemous. But it is 100% true. If you're not willing to lose the love and approval of anything and anybody for your own personal happiness, then you are not worthy of your own soul. Let me see if I can say that again. If you are not willing to sacrifice the love and approval of everybody in order to fulfill your own happiness, you are not worthy of your own soul. For me, my definition of enlightenment, I've said it before, I'll say it again, is very simple. Enlightenment is nothing more than this: having all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your impulses, all of your instincts, and all of your desires, having all of them, being completely conscious of them, feeling them without judgment. And no matter what your thoughts, feelings, and impulses and drives are, you take constructive action towards what is best for you and best for others. That is enlightenment. You cannot become more enlightened than that, ever. Enlightenment has nothing to do with being blissful all the time. Ideally, that is where we want to go, and if you're able to accomplish that, nobody is happier for you than I am. I have not accomplished that, and I consider myself to be somebody who at least has a measure of enlightenment. But I do not have 24 hours of bliss 7 days a week. I don't have it. I have human issues, drives, and feelings. The only thing that I teach people to do, if they want to accomplish enlightenment, is to do only one thing. And that one thing is you must find out what your soul wants you to do, what your soul wants to experience. Let me be clear about that. Wanting to know what your soul wants to do is not the same as wanting to know what is God's will for me. That's throwing yourself away and having somebody else tell you what to do. And that is blasphemy against your own soul. What I mean by that is that your soul wants to have fun. Your soul came here to accomplish desires. Your soul has desires it wants to fulfill for itself. And your job is to give your soul the fulfillment of all of its desires, even if those desires mean that you will be rejected, maybe, rejected or ostracized by everybody in your life. If you're not willing to sacrifice their love and approval for giving your soul its desires, then your soul will become angry with you and you will be miserable. So I just had a comment recently again. I mean, I don't read people's comments because I want to embarrass them. Sometimes that happens, but it's not my desire. My desire is because if somebody says it and I have a response to it, it means I've felt that way and or many other people have felt that way. And so in response to my latest video that I uploaded about Celestial Qigong, so I created a welcome video for people who have purchased the Celestial Qigong and practice it. And I made it publicly available on the channel, but what I did was I embedded it on that page that people get to after they've purchased the Qigong. And so somebody asked the question, something to the effect of, let me just read it. And again, if this person is watching, I'm not reading this to try and embarrass you. It's just, it's a great question because many people ask it. But it shows a complete misunderstanding of what this whole thing is about. And it's coming from a misdirected attempt to use spirituality in a way that spirituality is about your soul achieving its desires. If whatever you're following, whatever religion, whatever practice, is not focused on you becoming completely authentic to what your soul wants to experience, then it's not religion. It's not spirituality. It is programming. It is just another way to be programmed and be part of a cog in this big machine. So, somebody asked the question, what if you don't want to become an immortal? What if I just wanted to be a really great mom? Would I still have to go through all the same difficulties as I would if I was trying to become like the immortals? And it's frustrating for me to read that because there's really nothing for me to say. Because the whole assumption about what Celestial Qigong is about, what spiritual practice is all about. When I talk about spiritual practice specifically in this instance, I'm talking about this stuff here. These physical practices. Doing these physical practices which give you a direct connection to various life force energies which give your soul power and strength to experience itself and go out and live life. This is what I mean by spiritual practice. The whole point of these things and the whole point of seeking immortality through this stuff here, the whole point of that is to give you the ability to fulfill your desires and be happy. So nobody ever, that we could apply that same question to anything, and you can hear, how strange it sounds if we, instead of saying the phrase become an immortal, we apply anything else, any other discipline, any other body of knowledge, any other skill. What if you don't want to become a pro bodybuilder? What if I just wanted to be a great mom? Why do you have to? I mean, that question makes no sense. The only reason somebody would become a pro bodybuilder is because they had a desire to do so, and they're positively going after something that they want. But at no point have I ever said, if, again, I don't even know what the reference is, but at no point have I ever said or meant to say that becoming an immortal is the same as becoming a good person, is the same as becoming saved. Right? So let's look at it that way. What if somebody asked that question? Now it starts to make sense, because people go after becoming saved for a completely different reason. You want Jesus to save your soul? You're operating from the assumption that your soul is unsaved, that your soul is broken, is evil, is wrong, is bad. The assumption behind this person's very honest and sincere question is coming from a huge reservoir of pain. The whole point of the question is, how can I be out of pain? And so obviously, when you talk about becoming an immortal in Taoist understanding, that's a big undertaking. That's like saying, becoming Mr. Olympia, getting the gold medal in gymnastics. It's a huge goal. So what if somebody said, what if you don't want to become a gold medal gymnast? What if I just wanted to be a really great mom? It's a strange question. Nobody would ask that, because it's understood. Well, you go after becoming a gold medal Olympian because you have a drive to do it. It's something that you want. It's something that you desire. This makes it sound like I've said you have to accept Jesus or you're going to hell. So, this is again, it's frustrating for me to read this, because it's like, how do I respond to that? So I want to pose the question to you. You don't have to answer it. It's a rhetorical question, which is, what is it that you're looking for? Are you looking to increase your joy, increase your experience of life through spiritual practice? Or are you looking to escape your pain? There's nothing wrong with wanting to escape your pain. If your pain is so great that your prime focus in your life is to be free of your pain, that is an understandable place to be. I have been there in my life. I still experience that. There will still be good days and bad days where I'm in a lot of pain and I want freedom from that pain. But I've learned, having been on this planet for almost 6 decades, I've learned that there are certain things that if I try and do to release the pain, only makes the pain worse. And these would be what I perceive to be this superficial understanding of getting rid of your desires. Again, why do you want to judge your desires? It's ridiculous. The idea that having a desire is somehow evil, it's somehow, I don't know if people still follow this, but for a while it was really popular to say that aliens have implanted your chakras, and that what you need to do is have your chakras removed, because aliens are controlling you. That's an interesting way of saying that your desires, because the chakras are associated with desires. So when somebody says that they want their chakras removed, It means that they want somebody to take their desires away. And what is causing them pain is that their desires are not being met. And so instead of asking themselves, how can I fulfill my desires? They say, I want to be free of this pain, so I'm going to judge them. Or maybe they grew up being judged for, I don't know what it's like now. I think it's a lot different now. But, when I was a kid, and especially, before I was born, my parents' time, if you were a child, if you were a teenager and you had sexual desires, you were evil. It was wrong of you to be sexually attracted to other people. It was wrong of you to engage in sex before you were 21 years old and married. Anything before that, so you had to spend all your life denying you had these sexual desires, and if you did, it was wrong and evil and bad. And that's what I hear in this. What I hear in this is that wanting your chakras removed is somebody who's not getting any of their desires met, and worse than that, has this guilt about their desires. And so they beat themselves up, and they now create, again, a conspiracy theory. You see the connection? Conspiracy theorists are people who hate themselves. So if you're out there listening to me and you believe that somebody's doing it to you, I don't care who it is. You think it's the government, you think it's the elite, it's the billionaires, you think it's aliens, you think it's the devil, you think it's reptilians, if you think, whoever it is that you think, if it's something outside of you that has more power than you and they're doing it to you, what I'm here to reveal to you is that reveals that you have a great deal of self-hatred. You are projecting your self-hatred into the external environment. And you see, and this is why people, when I come and tell them what should be good news, which is that nobody's doing it to you. Whatever you're experiencing in your life, in your external life, whatever difficulties, poverty, illness, sadness, pain, addiction, loneliness, whatever it is that you're experiencing, you did it to yourself out of your unconscious programming. That's the bad news. The good news is, since you did it to yourself, you can fix it. There is nobody doing it to you. You are free. There are no victims. You would think me telling people that would make them go, oh my God, thank you so much. That's a load off. Okay, so tell me how to take full responsibility for my life because I want to be happy. That's not their response. Their response is they get furious with me and they tell me, whatever they say. So what does that mean? It means that they don't want to let go of their belief that somebody is doing it to them. The feeling that somebody is doing it to you is a response to you not getting your desires met, feeling unloved, feeling unheard. So I made a blanket statement on one of my videos, as I often do. And bear in mind, a lot of times I make extreme statements to get your attention and to make a point, and I'm very dramatic that way. And sometimes I could be a little bit more subtle about it. But I at some point I must have said something to the effect of that everybody who stormed the Capitol had mommy and daddy issues, meaning they had unresolved mommy and daddy trauma from childhood, and so they're projecting it onto the current political situation, and that's why they stormed the Capitol and crapped in people's offices and peed on the walls and broke windows and things like that, in an attempt to go and commit murder for to kill elected officials for doing what they believed to be their civic duty. And somebody wrote back and said, that's not, that's a blanket statement and it's not necessarily true. You can't say that about everybody. And we got into a conversation. and the person was actually quite intelligent, but in the process exposed their victim mentality of saying that, that they're not some tinfoil hat crazy nut job who believes in aliens destroying them, but they do believe that all of the billionaires are getting together and thinking about how to control her life. And I said, what's the difference? What's the difference between something that's more plausible like that, although it's still a victim mentality? All the billionaires are getting together and they're going to sit around and determine your life for you. What's the difference between that and saying alien reptilian overlords are stealing your chakras so that they can get into your energy body and steal your energy from you? What's the difference between that and saying that there are false beings of light waiting for you when you die to tell you to go back into your body so that they can put you in a matrix and feed off of your energy? What's the difference? There is no difference. There's these unnamed, maybe you can throw out one or two names of a billionaire whom you think might be sitting around plotting how to take your power away from you. What's the difference? There's some unknown group of people that are completely out of my reach who are doing it to me. And what I said to this person was, I'm not saying that there aren't conspiracies, because there are. The conspiracy by the petroleum companies to tell you that the scientific fact that climate change is caused by human use of petroleum products, that is a lie, that is a conspiracy made up by Al Gore to somehow do something. I don't know how he benefits from it. I'm still trying to figure that out, how Al Gore benefits by making that up. Of course, he didn't. He didn't make that up. I heard that. I mean, I've been on this planet long enough. I remember hearing about global warming long before Al Gore was even anybody knew about. So science has been talking about global warming, what they called it then the greenhouse effect. It's been going on since the 70s. There's nothing new about that. That's a real conspiracy to have quadrillionaire petroleum companies trying to tell you through media, through the mainstream media, trying to tell you that this is a hoax made up. That is a conspiracy. It was also a conspiracy to tell you that Iraq had nuclear weapons or was trying to get nuclear weapons so that Cheney, the vice president, could go in there with his security companies and make millions of dollars cleaning up after taking in the United States military and destroying what was a fascist regime, but that fascist regime was protecting a huge chunk of the Middle East from terrorists. And when we went into Iraq and we got rid of Saddam Hussein, he was not a good guy, but he was not at war with us, and he did not have nuclear weapons, and he had nothing to do with 9/11. Even though all of that was true, Bush and Cheney came up with a false justification to go to war so that they could try and get the oil, and that Cheney could go in with his security companies and mop up and make billions of dollars. That is a real conspiracy. Conspiracies exist. But the point is that even with all of that going on, if you understand who you are, if you understand the power of your own soul, then you will be bulletproof from all of that. But it frustrates me and it saddens me and it confuses me Because people come and say that they want spirituality, that they want to achieve enlightenment, that they want to be free. Yet when I hand them, I'll say, here's your freedom. Nobody's doing it to you. You have the power to create your own reality. In fact, you have created your own reality. They will get furious with me because there is a payoff in being a victim. The payoff in being a victim, among other things, is fitting in, being loved and accepted by society. You know, people talk about the mainstream media, and people talk about, they talk about it as though they're in this tiny minority. But the truth is, both sides of it, cancel culture and, the alt-right, they're in the majority. The popular thing to do right now is to complain about how somebody's doing it to you. That's the popular thing to do. If you want to be woke, you have to walk around talking about how everybody's doing it to you. If you want to be, the leader of your local right-wing fascist militia, you also have to say everybody's doing it to us. That's why we're storming the Capitol and crapping in people's offices. But the same thing with cancel culture. And it's interesting that both sides choose the same things. They don't want to be told, to wear a mask. They don't want to be told, things about vaccinations or lockdown. Nobody likes to be told what to do. And you've got both the right and the left. You've got both Antifa and you have fascist born-again Christian militias, both people saying, I refuse to wear a mask. You can't tell me what to do. And I'm not even here to say whether or not you should or shouldn't be wearing masks, except that it's hard for me, I get annoyed at victims. I get annoyed at people who want to spiritualize their victimhood. So, to get off of all of that, spirituality, in my experience, is very simple. Make yourself as happy as you possibly can while simultaneously living in a way that also helps other people be as happy as they can. You cannot go after your own desires and harm somebody else. They may feel harmed by you because you're not doing what they want, but that's a different story. The kindest thing you can do to an abuser is to not let them abuse you anymore, which will make them feel abused. They will feel you are abusing them if you don't let them abuse you. You going after what makes you happy will also empower everybody else in the universe. So I just want to give everybody the right to fulfill their deepest desires, to make themselves as happy as possible. But before that happens, you have to first have the belief that you not only deserve to have all of your desires met, but that it is your spiritual responsibility. It is your spiritual responsibility to make yourself as happy as you can be. Listen, there are days that I do not want to do this stuff. There are days that I really have to talk myself into just doing these simple movements. There are days that I really have to talk myself into getting out of bed and going surfing. There are days that I have to talk myself into going to the gym. But I mention those three things because those are the three things in my life that if I do them, I know I will be happy. It will bring me happiness. I don't start with that feeling sometimes. Sometimes I have quite ugly, uncomfortable feelings. But I do the work because I know if I do it, I will be happy. I will be happy. I will be prosperous. I will be healthy. I'd like to, at some point again, talk about health and healing and disease and all that, but that's a whole other subject. But the bottom line is that you get what you put effort into. If you put effort into being miserable, that's what you're going to get. Even if your assumption is that you're fighting against injustice. But what's the difference between truly fighting against injustice and fighting for your right to be miserable? Anyway, so I don't know if I said anything that I wanted to say, other than go after what makes you happy. That's your only job. As I say in my book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life, there's only one commandment. There's not 10. There's only one commandment. And it is a commandment. I guess there's not a lot of questions. So let me keep talking a little bit about this. There's only one commandment. And it is as powerful as the 10 commandments. So, the 10 commandments, thou shalt do this, thou shalt not do that. And the assumption is if you don't do what thou shalt do, then you're going to be punished. You'll be thrown into hell. If you don't obey the 10 commandments, Jehovah will be furious with you and throw you into eternal damnation. So you have to do them, right? Well, I reject that spiritual path. But the idea of a commandment that if you don't follow will result in your misery, I do believe. And that one commandment is you must, not it's a good idea, you must fulfill your soul's deepest desires, even if those desires go completely against all of your instincts and all of your training and all of your programming and all of your unconscious impulses. I use the word impulses for a reason, right? The impulse for an alcoholic to drink wine or beer or whatever it is that they drink, that's an impulse. So I make a distinction between an impulse and a desire, because an impulse is something that is usually associated with a defense mechanism or a very strong instinctual drive, like the drive to procreate. That can be an impulse. So there are times when you have to resist that impulse and you have to take opposite actions. You're sitting around and you're with your best friend and his wife happens to be a supermodel, and you have a strong impulse to bash him over the head and then drag her by the hair into your cave. Well, you have to overcome that impulse because that is not beneficial to them or to you. But that's not the same as a desire coming from your soul. So sometimes you have to completely go opposite of your impulses, which can be painful and difficult and challenging temporarily, in order to achieve what your soul wants to achieve. So again, that's enlightenment. Enlightenment, as I said, is having all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your impulses, all of your instincts, and all of your desires, feeling them 100% without judgment. And a judgment could be, I don't like this feeling. I want it to go away. No, you have to have them. Sometimes you have to not only have them, you have to dive into them. I've been doing that for the past few days. There's been a bunch of stuff that came up in me emotionally, having to do with ways that my parents programmed me. They programmed me to be shameful about expressing myself. And I talked about that in other videos. I sabotaged my entire acting career unconsciously because on an unconscious level I was trying to please my parents, who shamed me out of doing that. And I've been thinking about that and realizing as I'm hitting 60 years of age that I can't go back to being 25 and 30 and starting over again. You know, I'll do it right. I can't do that. That's over. It's done. I mean, I could do it again in a new way, but I became very sad about how painful it was for me to have the people who were supposed to be supporting me and encouraging me as I went into life, into my adulthood, having them not only not support me, but to shame me out of the thing that gave my soul the greatest joy, which was to give to others through my artistic expression. To feel guilty about that, to feel shame. I really was able to finally, feel on a deeper level how saddening that was for me, how confusing it was for me, how hurtful it still is. So that is part of my following my commandment of my soul, because if I don't work through the shame of expressing my deepest desires, if I don't work through that, then I won't be able to fulfill my soul desire. And that is my commandment. God's will for me is to make myself as deeply fulfilled and happy as I possibly can, and to be willing to die to achieve it, to not let anything stop me. As the fictional Jesus said, if you're not willing to kill your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your cousin for me, you're not worthy of me. That's what your soul says to you. If you're not willing to go to any lengths and to give up the love and approval and acceptance of anything and everything in order to achieve your greatest desires, you are not worthy of your own soul. And you will be miserable. Because your soul does not stop wanting what it wants. You cannot shut your soul up. You can't do it by guilting yourself. You can't do it by like these ridiculous gurus who tell you you have to get rid of your desires. What a ridiculously self-destructive thing to say. What an outrageously stupid thing to say. You're not going to silence your soul by getting rid of your desires, by controlling your mind. What a bunch of nonsense. You're not going to be able to silence your soul by stuffing yourself full of chemicals, gambling addiction, drug addiction, porn addiction. These things are not going to silence your soul. You're not going to silence your soul by giving yourself diseases. Most, if not all, I'm almost ready to say that all disease is a result of self-directed negativity and or past life karmic self-directed negativity. The question of how does a little kid be born, with brain cancer? In order for my beliefs to work, the only thing that makes sense is they brought it with them from a past life. My experience with age-related illness, because I'm watching my friends, I'm watching my family and my friends, a lot of them are getting these horrible diseases, like ALS or Parkinson's, some of them at a relatively young age of, 60 years old or less. And these are people I've known my whole life. And so I know from experience, these are people who spent the majority of their energy trying to suppress their negative feelings about themselves. They felt guilty, they felt shameful, they've always had some kind of problem. They were on pain medication for this, or they were an alcoholic or a drug addict, or they were constantly, seeking after salvation through relationships. They had codependence. And I've known them and I've been feeling my whole life, I wish that person would just deal with their feelings. I care about them. But they push them down. And then what ends up happening after 5 or 6 decades of doing that, magically you have these age-related illnesses. Incurable. I myself have gone through periods of chronic pain. And every single time it has been a result of me trying to deny my desires in order to be accepted by either my wife or my family or my friends or my religion or my society. So in my personal experience, if you try to fight against your soul, you will be miserable. So going back to this person's question, what if you don't want to become an immortal? What if I just want to be a really great mom? Would I still have to go through all the same difficulties as I would if I was trying to become like the immortals? In other words, this person is saying, I'm in a lot of pain and I don't know how to get out of it. How can I escape my pain? And in other words, the person is thinking about, should I become an immortal? I don't want to do it, but if that's what I have to do to be rid of pain, then I'll do it, which of course you won't accomplish anything. That's like saying, I want to be an Olympic athlete. Well, you're going to have to spend a lot of time training. It's going to take a lot of work because you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you're obviously going to be a shitty Olympic athlete. So try to become an immortal just because I want to be out of pain. It looks like a lot of work, but if I have to do that in order to avoid my pain, the point is that she's in pain. She wants out of her pain. And is simply a result of not doing what your soul wants. Trying to become enlightened, this is the problem here. This question really is about, I want to become enlightened so I won't be in pain. But the problem with that is that if you don't even know what your soul wants, and if you don't have the ability, the self-love, to let yourself have these desires, how are you going to fulfill them? You can't fulfill your soul's desires if you don't even know what your soul wants. And if you're in that state, then you're going to be in a lot of pain. And so trying to escape your pain is not going to bring you enlightenment. The way to get enlightenment is to fulfill the desires of the soul. And that can only be done when you're no longer shaming yourself out of even having desires. You have to first start from the place of, I want to love and accept myself and accept all of my desires. Yesterday I was watching on YouTube, flipping through, and every now and then I like to hear about people who have had near-death experiences. I had an experience which I feel is similar to that, but I haven't actually had a near-death experience. And they all seem to be pretty much the same. I should have put the link on it here, but this woman was in a coma and she passed away and went off to heaven or whatever it was. And what she discovered was that the moment that she was out of her body, she was filled with this blissful feeling, this orgasmic blissful feeling, and realized that that she didn't have to do anything to be worthy of existence, that she had value and worth simply because she existed. And there was nothing that she needed to do. She didn't have to achieve enlightenment. She didn't have to get saved. She didn't have to become a good person. She didn't have to become a righteous person. She didn't have to become a successful person. She didn't have to do anything. She didn't have to get anybody's love or approval. That in that state, she knew that she just felt this love coming from all of existence simply because she existed. And she was in a coma because she was dying of cancer. Like she had tumors the size of, basketballs all through her body. And she, her body was dying. And she was told that, she had to go back, and she didn't want to go back. She's like, why would I want to go back? I'm so happy here. And, your time's not done. You have to go back. But she knew, according to her, she knew in that state that simply because she had come to understand that she was valuable simply because she existed, and that she didn't have to do anything in order to be loved, that she was already loved simply because she existed. She knew if she brought that back with her, that she would heal, that her body would heal. She was also told by her father, go back and live fearlessly. And I was happy to hear that, because that's what I've been teaching you, is that you have to be fearless. So there's no room for any victim mentality. You can't be fearless and have a victim mentality at the same time. You can't be living fearlessly and then be upset because you think the government or aliens or the billionaires or the whomever are doing it to you. As long as you carry that feeling, you can't be living fearlessly. You also can't be living fearlessly if you feel that somebody is denying you. You can't be living fearlessly if you feel guilty, if you feel shame. All of these things mean that you're not living fearlessly. I should say that if you're acting on those feelings, you can have whatever feeling you want and still live fearlessly. But if you're acting on those feelings, like this woman who wants, asking me, basically her question is, I don't want to become an immortal, but if I have to do it, I'll do it. Do I have to do it? No, you don't have to do anything. You just have to be your true, authentic self, because your soul is, that experience that woman had when she was out of her body, which meant she was out of her programming. She was no longer walking around with the programming she had in this lifetime of, in order to be good, I have to do this. In order to be loved, I have to do that. I have to be perfect. And all that was gone because she was no longer in her human body. Because that's where all that stuff resides, in your human brain, in your human psyche. But once you're in your spirit, you are just existence. And your nature is bliss. The nature of your soul is continuous and constant bliss all the time. And that nature of constant and consistent bliss wants to express itself through your physical meatbag avatar. But if you are wrapped up in these false programmings of, in order to be loved, I have to be perfect. In order to be loved, I have to make people happy. In order to be loved, I have to be wealthy. In order to be loved, I have to be righteous. I have to be smart. I have to be good looking. I have to be tough. Whatever it is that you think you have to do in order to be accepted, in order to be a good person, that is blocking you. That is blocking you from your soul, which is constantly experiencing its own bliss simply because it's alive. So shamans talk about soul retrieval. That's it. That's all soul retrieval is. When you live your life based on wanting other people's love and approval, or feeling guilty, feeling shamed because you're not good enough, you're tearing yourself away from your soul. Because your soul is like saying, hey, I know that's what mom and dad said. I know that's what religion says. I know that's what the woke community says. I know that's what the alt-right political people say. I know that's what all these people say, but I'm really just happy being alive. And you know what I want to do? I want to go surfing every day. You know what I want to do? I want to be an artist. I want to be an actor, a ballerina. I want to be an engineer. I want to invent things. I want to be a game designer. Your soul wants to have fun. And you're taking your soul's fun away from itself with all of the, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I have to do this. And whenever you do that, whenever you feel that you're being beat up by that, you will project it onto your external environment. And you're going to end up saying, in one form or another, they're doing it to me. And this woman here who says, do I have to become an immortal? She's also saying, my pain is doing it to me. I have nothing to do with it. It's happening to me. Circumstances did things to me, and I had nothing to do with it. I had no karmic responsibility, and I didn't take any actions based on all that. It just happened to me, and I want out. Do I have to become an immortal to get out? You don't have to do anything. I do this stuff because I'm not capable of just simply being in my soul. I need help. I have the same programming that you do. I was programmed by my parents, I was programmed by my family, I was programmed by my school, by my church, by society, by American history classes. I was programmed, just like you were. I was programmed, and those programs of I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough myself, and my feelings are bad, and nobody wants to hear what I have to say, and I'm not good looking enough, and all that stuff, all those things go through me just like they go through you. And the chatter of all of that is too loud. I don't have the ability in and of myself to just simply cavalierly say, you know what, I'm just going to live from my soul right now. I don't have the ability to do that. I need help. When I do this stuff, when I do these things, I am able to hone in on what my soul wants. I get a lot of other benefits too. I feel really good physically. I feel good emotionally most of the time when I do it. I feel empowered. I feel a sense of connection to everything. I have a closer relationship with my soul. But I mean, the main reason I do that is so that I can overcome the programming. So you don't have to do it. You don't want to be a spirit fighter? Don't be one. You don't want to summon the immortals and become an immortal? Then don't. Nobody cares. Go after things in a positive way. And I'll shut up with this, and then I'll maybe take some questions if there are any. You know, as an actor, you have to learn to do something called make positive choices. Which means that when you're playing a character, even if you're playing, let's say you're playing Hitler. So you have to go play Hitler. So a bad actor will go and pretend to be a mean, evil person, and it's bad acting. It's no fun to watch. What's fun to watch is when you see somebody playing Hitler and you identify with Hitler, and it gets creepy because you understand why he did it, you know. And so a positive choice wouldn't be I'm an evil person and I want to get rid of those bad, nasty Jewish people. That would be a weak choice. A positive choice would be, in his mind, he thinks he's actually giving the world salvation by the Holocaust. In his twisted mind, his feelings are he's helping people. He's helping the world. Then you have this tragic, misunderstood character who's doing these really awful things, and that makes him even creepier. But it's because the actor is making positive choices. What is it that he's driving after that in his mind is a good thing? So you can't, wanting to know, should I become an immortal to escape the pain? That's not a positive choice. There's nothing positive in that. The positive choice is, and being an immortal sounds like a blast. I know it would be a ton of work, but man, that would be so much fun. When I go surfing and the waves are big, I have to paddle out, through these walls of water. I have to be willing to get hit by a wave and pushed under the water and held down. I have to be willing to be completely out of breath. I have to be willing to stress my shoulders and my back out paddling through all that. I have to be willing to do the work to catch that one big wave that I can think about for the next week and get off and enjoy it. I have to do the work, and there would be, if I was operating from a negative, I'd never even get out in the water because I wouldn't get past my God, the water's cold, it's wet, I'm going to be held down, I'm going to feel like I'm drowning, it's going to be a lot of work, I'm going to be out of breath, I might hurt myself. Nobody does anything for negative reasons. People do it for positive reasons. So again, that comment saddened me, and I didn't know how to respond because the person just had no positive. There was nothing positive in the question, meaning, I'm really excited and I want to accomplish this. How do I do it? The whole point of the question was, how do I avoid the most amount of pain? Do I have to do that to avoid pain? It's sad because you don't even have the basics, and I didn't either. You don't even have the basic understanding that your whole reason for being on this planet is to enjoy your own existence, to enjoy the bliss of your own existence. And I understand if you don't feel that. In fact, you may feel the opposite. And that is why we do the work. We do all this work so we can break through all of that. Unlike that nonsense that I heard earlier today, where the supposed guru is saying the way to enlightenment is to get rid of all of your desires. A bunch of horseshit. All right, so I've babbled long enough. I'm happy to take questions. I'm only interested in your questions. So if you have a question, write the word question in all caps, and I'll answer it if it's an honest question. Let's see here. Doesn't look like, let me refresh this. I don't even see any questions on here. Just refreshing the page. Be patient with me. All right, so I don't really, there isn't a whole lot. There isn't anything. So Vincent.thunderwizard.com says hello. He is one of my astrologers that I've certified. You can go to his website and get a reading. Dakota. It was good talking with you the other day. So on the Q&A, if there's a lot of people, I want to see your question. So you write, as you see Vincent beneath you wrote the word question in all caps. So I want you to do that and then write your question out. Otherwise, I might miss it, and I don't want to miss your question. That's why I require people to do that. So you say, is the Celestial Qigong part of phase 3? No, Celestial Qigong is its own thing. So you can go to celestialqigong.com. It was the first Qigong practice that I synthesized 12 years ago, and it is the basis for the spirit fighting. In fact, it's reverse engineering of the Maoshan spirit fighting. And so I reverse engineered it and found the postures and the mudras and the movements that opened up the lightning center. So it is not part of anything on the Patreon. You're not required to do it, but it's a good idea. So if you want to, you can go to celestialqigong.com and get that and make that part of your practice if you want. Lightning Qigong. Lightning Qigong is the 90-day challenge. So when you go to thunderwizard.com and you scroll down to the first, in order to do that, you have to subscribe. So which you are, you have to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You have to subscribe to that. It's a monthly subscription. You can opt out whenever you want. But what have you got to lose? Go figure it out. You scroll down to the first video that says level 1, Lightning Qigong level 1 or Warrior 90-Day level 1. You start with that and you do each level for 90 days. And they're all part of the Lightning Qigong. So as you get into each practice, I give more and more things, more and more powerful, increasingly more powerful practices as we go on. Vincent.thunderwizard.com question. I recently started doing a Narasimha mantra and I'm becoming aware of how my mom is being hypercritical of me since childhood. Do you have any advice on this? No, I mean, that's exactly what Narasimha is. In case somebody doesn't know that, you can look up that deity, Narasimha. Narasimha is a Vishnu deity. So there are three main categories of deities, just like there are in Norse mythology. There's Odin, Vili, and Ve, higher self, lower self, and middle self. Higher self, lower self, your psyche, middle self, the soul. Odin, Vili, and Ve. And they have Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. So Shiva is higher awareness, Brahma is the lower self, the creator, and then Vishnu, which comes from the same word as the Norse Ve, it means sacred space, means the soul. So Narasimha is one of the avatars of Vishnu, the soul of the universe. And in that mythology, he fights against his father, who is a narcissistic, evil abuser. And when he stays true to himself, because this is what happens, his father tries to get him to be this horrible, narcissistic, evil person, and he refuses. He doesn't fight against his father, but he refuses to have his father influence him, which is exactly what I've been talking about today. And as a result of that, this extremely powerful, violent form of Vishnu comes bursting out of a pillar, which represents the spinal column. He comes bursting out of a pillar, and he's full of rage, and he takes the Prahalad is the boy's name. He takes Prahalad's father, the narcissist, and he puts him on his lap, and he tears open his stomach and pulls his intestines out. It's really violent, but it represents the soul fighting for your desires, against exactly what we talked about. Prahalad represents the human being in their childhood, because he's a child. As a child, having your soul, just you and your soul, and Prahalad's father, I can't remember his name. Prahalad's father represents how your parents program you, how your parents try to program you and control you based on their selfish narcissism. And the way out of that is the soul. So what it means is that your soul will come to your defense if you call upon it. But you have to make the choice. Prahalad is actually, he's tortured. His father tortures him, trying to get him to do these really horrible things. And Prahalad refuses. I think it's getting him to deny Vishnu, something like that, which is deny your soul. So the symbolism of it isn't denying religion. If you deny religion, I'll accept you. It means if you deny your own soul and let me control you, then I will love you. And when Prahalad refuses, he says to his father, "Father, I love you, but I love Vishnu, and I'm not going to deny Vishnu." It's you saying, "Mom and Dad, I love you, but I'm not going to deny my own desires just to make you happy. And even if that means that you hate me." You have to be willing to die. There are people who are put to death simply because they won't. In times past, not so much now, but in times past, people were put to death simply because they wouldn't abandon their own soul. So that what you're experiencing when you chant to Narasimha, you are chanting to your soul to come to your defense. And so you're going to feel anger. You're going to feel righteously indignant towards the people who are trying to control you and shame you and minimize you. So that doesn't, I don't know your mom. I don't know what she has or hasn't done. But at the very least, you had the experience that, as you said, she's hypercritical of you. So when somebody's hypercritical of you, meaning they're criticizing you, it's a way of devaluing the other person. It's a way of saying, you're not doing it right. You're not perfect. You don't have value in and of yourself. And of course, it's a projection, because that's how your mom, if you're accurate, that's how your mom feels about herself. She feels imperfect, and she can't tolerate seeing that in you. Now, she may feel that her feelings, her honest desires, she may have been programmed to judge and shame herself for her own feelings and needs and desires. And so when you have feelings, needs, and desires, it may stimulate her to want to criticize you, because by you fulfilling your desires and being your true self, it makes her become aware of how disconnected she is, and that's intolerable. So she has to project that onto you. Now, we all do that. Everybody does that. Everybody projects on other people all the time. So that's all that's happening, and you're becoming aware of it. You're individuating. You're realizing that you are not your mom, that your mom's opinion of you does not define you. And it's painful and it's sad because you have to say, you know, Mom, I can't accept your approval. I'm not going to seek your approval. And it saddens me because I want your love and I want your approval, but I want my own love and my own approval more than I want yours. And so this is what the fictional character Jesus meant. If you're not willing to kill your mother and your father for my sake, you're not worthy of me. And your soul says that. If you're not willing to kill your parents, then you're not worthy of your own soul. So that's, you know, people should be looking for their own approval, to approve of themselves. Find your own individuation, your own self-confidence. And if you're like me, you can't do that by yourself. You need help. That's what all this stuff is here to help you do. If you want all the other stuff in the meantime, like you want superpowers and become an immortal and be able to do all the fun sorcerer stuff, then so much the better. But the whole point of it is to individuate, to love yourself, and not need anything outside of you to determine your worth and your value. All right, so Prancer99, welcome to the channel. I recommend that you follow my directions on how to write a question, first off. Second off, it sounds like you're brand new to the channel, so I would recommend that you spend more time. Your question, why is happiness good? I mean, is that really a question you need to ask? Is that not obvious? Are you saying that unhappiness is somehow good or better? Just to be straight with you, it's a ridiculous question. You already know the answer to that. It makes me think that you think being unhappy is a good thing, and that's ridiculous. That's nonsense. And even you know that. So I encourage you to actually write a real question. A real question would be, why do I think that being unhappy is good? That's really what you want to ask me. You probably feel that if I say happiness is good and you're not feeling happy, then you think I'm criticizing you. You think I'm saying that you're bad or you're wrong because you're not happy. And so in order to justify yourself, you say, well, but why is happiness good? Why isn't it okay to be unhappy? Well, it is okay to be unhappy. There's nothing wrong with it. But is unhappiness a good thing? Of course not. And even you know that. So I encourage you to actually spend some time and write an honest, authentic, intelligent question as opposed to just barfing out whatever goes through your head. Okay? Spend some more time on my channel. Watch my videos on the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Watch my videos about karma. And then you'll have more information about what I teach, and then you won't have to ask obvious questions like that. Okay, so I want your questions, but I want you to think a little more deeply and not be as reactive, and not be as superficial. Isako question, what are signs of Shin energy building up in my body in terms of emotions? I currently am at phase 3, feel like I'm flowing better, I am better dancing, and my element's stronger. So it sounds like you don't really have a question. It sounds like you have an experience and you're wanting me to co-sign it. And that is that you're experiencing, you're flowing better with life, I'm better dancing, I don't know what that means, and my elements are stronger. So instead of asking me, you're telling me that you're having a positive experience from because the Shin is the heart center that all these practices do. They tap you into the heart mind, which is the Shin. So yes, you're doing good. Those are all signs that you are tapping into it. Okay, so congratulations, keep up the good work. Melba Lee, you don't have to scream at me. Just write the word question in all caps. You don't have to scream at me through the whole thing in all caps. Because that's what it looks like. It looks like you're screaming at me. I just want the first word so that I can get it. Do you understand? So I won't miss the question. What self-help books do you recommend to aid through the shamanic journey? So Melba, welcome to my channel. My feelings are hurt. You have devastated me. Why? Because I have a link right here. It says courses.thunderwizard.com. That link will take you to all of my books. I have 13 books that I've written. So I recommend, obviously, my own books. The most important book, which you don't even have to get, you can go on my channel and listen to me read the book. So you have to learn how to look for things on people's channel. Look for The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Go and get that book. And in all seriousness, if you can master that little book, if you can master what I teach in just that little tiny pamphlet almost, if you can master what's in that, you won't need to do anything else. That's the most important thing in this world, is to follow that one commandment. I tell you exactly what it is. I tell you how to accomplish it. The reason why I still offer apprenticeship and doing consultations with people is because people still need help after that getting to discover their soul desire and learning how to overcome the shame. Because that's what it all boils down to. People who have difficulty going after their soul desire have some level of shame that they have to fight against. And the shame is very difficult to overcome. Because, the way that it was put in that biblical text where it says, Jesus says, if you're not willing to kill your parents for me, you're not worthy of me. I mean, that is an actual good representation, because you're not supposed to physically kill them. You're not supposed to harm anybody physically. That's not what it means. It means that on an unconscious level, when you choose your own happiness over other people's demands and programming, to your unconscious mind, it feels that you are killing them. It feels like you are committing psychic murder. And in fact, that is what's happened. Whenever you break up with somebody, whenever you get a divorce, on an unconscious level, you are committing psychological murder. You're murdering the introjection of them in your mind. People who actually commit murder are people who are unable to do it inside of their own mind, so because of their weakness, they have to externally do it, but it doesn't solve the problem. Then they get haunted by the ghost of it, which is the introjection. The little, every person in your life that you bring in, you introject. They become little people inside of your mind that tell you what to do and tell you how to live and tell you how to be loved and all of that. So when you get rid of somebody, when you go against them, when you break up with them, you have to ritually murder them inside of your own mind, or psychologically murder them. So that's a real symbolic thing, although physically, of course, that's not what you're doing. Okay, what else? Prahalad's father is Hiranyakashipu, and I forget what that means. So Vincent.thunderwizard.com, go and find out what the names of the meaning of those names are. When you understand what the meanings of the names are, you will see what the psychological symbolism is for all of these characters. I forget what Hiranyakashipu means. Guy Home, question. Please write the word question in all caps so that I won't miss it. Why would the soul get angry at you, as you said, if you don't follow commands when the nature of the soul is bliss, as you once said? Isn't the unconscious program that would do so? So, Guy Home, I want you to sit with the feeling behind your question. You're not listening to what I say, you're listening and responding to the emotion that I've given to it. You have a problem with the idea of people being angry with you. That's what I get from this. You have a problem with your own anger, because instead of going, interesting. So when I'm in conflict with myself, it means my soul is angry with me, and that's why I have chronic pain. That's why I have poverty in my life, because my soul is angry. How can I make my soul happy? Instead of having that reaction to what I said, your reaction is, wait a minute, why is it angry with me? What did I do wrong? So that tells me that you respond to anger. And it's a way people can control you through their anger. So it makes me think that your parents may have been angry with you. Or, anger doesn't mean somebody's yelling at you, just disapproval. So what you are afraid of, and I get it, because it's a strong word, why would the soul get angry at you? The soul is bliss. It's just a word. Guy home, it's just a word. Don't get distracted. Don't lose the forest for the trees. The point is that when you do not fulfill the desires of your soul, it creates a conflict inside of you. You become angry. This is what, why people are passive aggressive. You can't really accuse me all the time of being passive aggressive. I'm sure I'm passive aggressive like everybody else. But people who are passive aggressive are people who are rageful. They're full of rage, maybe in the moment or in general. But because they judge themselves for their feelings, they stuff their rage down and it'll come out passive aggressively. So Guy Home, I encourage you to sit with your response to the idea of anything being angry with you. So if you can get comfortable with the thought that your soul might be angry with you, that'll be helpful for you. If you want to look at it another way, you can. My soul is sad because I'm not giving it what it wants. If that diffuses it and makes you want to come to the aid of your soul and make your soul happy again, I don't care. As long as it results in you taking the positive actions toward fulfilling your soul's desire, I don't care what word you use for it. But the truth is that when we don't do what our soul wants, we get furious. We get angry. Now, if you've been programmed not to be shamed out of your anger, in other words, when you were a little kid, if you didn't have the ability to go and look mommy in the face when you were 4 years old and scream cry at her and say, I hate you, mommy, I hate you, I wish you were dead. If mommy doesn't respond with love to that, if mommy slaps you across the face, or if mommy makes you feel guilty and says, don't you ever say that to me, I'm your mother. If she responds that way when you're 3 and 4 years old, what's going to happen is you will get the feeling, I'm not allowed to ever have hateful feelings towards somebody. I'm not allowed to be rageful. So when you feel rage, you will then turn that rage upon yourself. You will feel guilty. You'll become perfectionist. This is what perfectionists are. If you're a perfectionist and you're never good enough, you're full of self-directed rage. But the rage is not at you. It's initially at whatever is disappointing you. And when we're little kids, it's mommy, because mommy is our whole world. So when we don't have something, when mommy doesn't give milk or doesn't give cookies or doesn't give love or doesn't give attention or doesn't do something we want, then we become furious. If mommy's doing her job, mommy will say, come here. I know you hate me. I know. I still love you. You can't have a cookie right now, but I still love you, and it's okay for you to feel this way. When that happens, then you then start to do to yourself what mom did, which is when you feel rageful because you're not getting what you want, because that's all that rage is, even if it means somebody's trying to kill you and you want to kill them in return, somebody's trying to take your life away from you. If somebody doesn't give you love, doesn't give you approval, doesn't give you a cookie, you might become rageful over that. And so if your mom loved you through that and said, you have value simply because you have these rageful feelings and you have the right to have these desires, and I love you even though you hate me, I still love you. If she doesn't do that, then you're going to go into life beating yourself up every time you feel rage. And when anybody else feels rageful towards you, you will be strongly reactive. You will either react back with rage at them, or you will react with guilt, or you will react with they will be the most exciting people you've ever met, and you will chase after them, trying to get them to fall in love with you. So this is why people date narcissists. It means that their parents were narcissistic. So, you're asking me, why would the soul be angry? Instead of, you're not asking me the right question. It's okay that you ask me that, but the question that will be most helpful for you is, how do I give the soul what it wants? Not get caught up on whether the soul is angry or not. Because if you are fully empowered, that means that your wife, your husband, your best friend can look you in the face and say, I fucking hate you right now. And if you're empowered within yourself, you will go, wow, that's okay that you feel that way. I'm really interested to know why, because I want to help you. I want to know if I did something to cause that, or if this is your experience and how can I best be your friend. I've said numerous times, if I can sit across from a woman I'm dating and if she can look me in the face and say, I feel such murderous rage towards you right now. And if she can say that and own it without acting out destructively, I'll marry her. Because I'll know that when things get bad, she will own her feelings and be able to express them to me, which means that she will give me either the ability to fix the problem or to help her through whatever her projection is. Because that means she'll do the same for me. She'll be able to let me look her in the face and say, I'm feeling really ragefully murderous at you right now. Because you didn't say good morning to me. And it hurt my feelings so bad. And I feel so rageful at you. And she'll be there, instead of getting her feelings hurt and angry and upset, she'll go, oh, come here, let me take care of you. I'll marry her in a second if she's able to do that. So Guy Home, I give you that as well. Let your soul be angry with you. That's okay. People can be angry with you. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't take anything away from you. So sit with that for a while. What else? Nothing else? Nothing else. All right, that's it for me for today. It's a beautiful day. We are currently in lockdown for the first time since I've been here. And, we locked down a little bit in the beginning a year ago, but now we're back in lockdown. Finally, it took a while, but COVID has finally made its way to Australia, perhaps. So I'm going to enjoy walking the empty beaches because everybody's at home. All right, hope you guys are doing well. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.